Hey everybody, it's Robin from Demute. I'm here to show you to do a quick showcase of the voiceover priority system or voiceover manager, depending on the name where you're looking. So this system is a solution to the problem of having multiple VOs potentially get triggered at the same time, or having a VO that is triggered while another one is playing. Usually you don't want to have multiple VOs playing at the same time because they'll talk over each other, you don't understand what they're saying. And if you have subtitle support, one may overwrite the other. So usually you want one VO to play at the same time. And so this system is a simplistic but rather powerful, I think, solution to that problem. It handles the big two things it handles are priority and queuing. So if a voice line is triggered, well, it will check a priority that you've set, and if it's higher, it will interrupt the one that's currently playing. If it's not, it will be potentially set to queue, so that when the one that is currently playing is over, then it will play the one that you've triggered after. Another powerful addition, if you don't really care about priority and queuing, is that there are delegate support, so that you can run specific logic when a VO starts playing and when a VO finishes playing. So if you need to string together a bunch of VOs that don't necessarily have priority for a conversation, then you can use onFinish delegates to just start the next VOs, for example. Let's get into the showcase of the system. So once you install the Demute toolkit, you get access to the settings for the voiceover manager. It's written voiceover manager here, and this is where you would choose your backend, because the voiceover manager, the VPS, the voiceover priority system, supports two backends: the native Unreal Audio, which uses sound waves, or Fmod. And if you're using Fmod, it has all the code running for calling events and audio tables and programmer instruments instead of your native Unreal Audio. Now, I don't have the Fmod Studio Unreal plugin installed, so it doesn't actually show up in the dropdown. But if you had the Fmod Studio plugin installed, you would be able to choose Fmod as one of the options for the plugin's backend. So how does the VPS, the voiceover priority system, actually work? Well, it's a subsystem, but for that you need to tell it which voice lines have which priority. You have to set a bunch of data for all your voice lines. How do you do that? Well, you need to create the simplest way, and that's what I'll be showing. If you want to know more, you have more options, you can always go check the documentation. But the simplest way is to create a data table. And the row structure is, if you look up VO, you have the base. You never want to choose a base, and you have either Fmod or native depending on the backend you're using. Here in this example, we're using native, so I'll go for native. So we have our table. And let's add 5 rows, because I have 5 sound waves, 5 VO.
P1. This is a voiceover of priority 1.
That we can use. So I'm going to set those real quick. So one thing to note about also the system is that there's an array for the sound waves, which means it has random support. So when you're calling to play a specific voice line, instead of just playing a voice line, you can have the system choose randomly from one of multiple. So if it's a quick bark, for example, of someone getting hurt, instead of always hearing the same quip when someone gets hurt, you can have them say one of as many voice lines as you want. And we do have no repeat support, which means the system will keep track of, these are the last 2 that we've played. We can't play them again until we've played another one, so that you don't always hear the same one. But for our example, we're going to only set 1 sound wave per voice line, per voice ID. And there we go. So we've set all the voice lines. You can see them here, the sound waves right here. So an important thing that you need to change for this to actually work, but that doesn't actually appear in the row editor, is the row name here. And so, because this is the ID that you'll use to actually trigger the VO. So you're associating all these sound waves with this ID. That's how you'll actually be triggering them. And so here we go now to all the options for each. You have trigger and playback priority. So why 2 different priorities? Trigger priority is a priority that is used when you're triggering the VO, and it is going to compare itself to the playback priority of the currently playing voiceover. That means you have more fine-grained control as to how a voiceover will behave if it is set to be interrupted. So you can have something that has low trigger priority but high playback priority, which means it won't interrupt anything, and you can have it queue up, so it will play later. But once it's playing, it will not be interrupted by anything. It has low playback and low trigger and high playback, for example. So for this example, however, we'll set them to the same. So this is if you want your VO to be to queue if something is currently playing that is of higher priority. Should it queue, or should it just be discarded? You know, sometimes you just have a quick character quip, and well, that doesn't necessarily need to be queued to be played in, you know, 15 seconds. Maybe we can just forget about that. It's not that important. Same thing, queue on interrupt. If your voice line is interrupted, should it be queued back up to finish later? That's for like maybe important narrative VO that, you know, something more important, even more important has to be said, but you still want the players to hear the end of that line, so we queue it up for later. You also have access to cooldown time. So say, for example, you have a bunch of VOs, like you have an array of like 5 VOs. When your character kills a specific type of enemy, maybe there's a fight where there's like 4 of them. Maybe you don't want him to say something every time he kills one of them. So you can set a cooldown time of, I don't know, like maybe 20 seconds. And so if this VO were to be called, you know, less than 20 seconds after it already played, it would not be played again. It would be rejected. And finally, no repeats. No repeats works with an array of sounds. As I said before, it will keep in mind the sounds that have recently been played so that they can be played before the others to add, to make sure that we're not always hearing the same voice line. And then you have VO tags and display name. These have no mechanical or logical use. They're mostly for you. VO tags allow you to set gameplay tags for VO for your own systems and for you know, sorting. And then the display name is a display name for logging. If you set no display name, it will default to the row name, but those can be different for you. So once you've set up this this data table, so you can either use the subsystem to load it dynamically at runtime, or the cool thing you can do is you go back to your project settings, VoiceOver Manager, you can set it to load by default whenever we're running a game. So here I won't have to worry about manually loading and deloading this data table. It will be loaded at runtime. A quick thing to note is we have 2 other options in the settings as well. Delay time is the amount of time between when a voiceover ends and a queued voiceover should begin, so that they don't go right one after the other. It adds a bit of breathing time between the VOs, and you can set that. So if we have a voiceover that's queued, after the voiceover that's playing, we will wait 1 second before we start the queued one. And then we have allow finish time. This probably should default to a lower value. But if a voice over has higher priority than something that's currently playing, but the one that's currently playing only has 0.5 or 1 second left, it won't be interrupted. It will be allowed to finish. This allows to avoid weird cuts at the end of a voice line. You know, if it's been playing for 15, 20 seconds, it would be a shame to cut it when there's only 1 second left. So it's a grace period to allow, okay, yes, it has higher priority, but we can wait for 1 second for it to finish before we play this next more important one. Now you can set that to whatever you want. You can set it to 0 if you want, so that there is no grace period. Same thing, you can set the delay time to 0, so there is no delay time. Okay, so now we've set our data table, and let's take a quick look at it again. What we'll actually be using to trigger the voice lines are the row names, so VO 1 through 5. Actually, let's correctly set up the priority, which we haven't done. And let's have 2 be on queue, 3 be on queue, 4 be on queue, and queue on interrupt, and 5 be on queue. It can't be interrupted 5, so there's no real, with our current setup, it can't be interrupted, so there's no real reason to put it there. And yeah, we can save that. Remember the row names. And now let's go quickly to our level blueprint. Technically, this is a subsystem, so it can kind of be called from anywhere, but out of simplicity, let's do this in our level blueprint. So we get the voice over manager subsystem, and from there we have different ways to play the sound. So you can go all the way down to the voice over manager, and here you have all the methods for the subsystem. So what we're looking at is play. So when we're using data tables and IDs, you want to use play registered. If you use play unregistered, you can pass a VO info. VO info is a struct that has more or less all the same information as one row does. For the sake of, you can look in the documentation for when to, you should rather use that rather than data tables. But so we're going to look for play registered. And we have 3 different types of methods. We have play registered VO 2D, then add location or attach, which are the standard methods for playing audio in Unreal. They work the same way. Add location takes a location, and attach takes an attach component. But Out of simplicity for this example, let's play VO 2D. Let's just play VO in 2 dimensions. And so when I press on the 1 button, I want to play VO 1. Let me quickly get that set up for all of them. Okay, we now have them all the players set up. Let's go in the level and just showcase what that sounds like. So I press 1.
P1. This is a voiceover of priority 1.
If I play 1 again, and then I
P1.
play 3.
This is a P3. This is a voiceover of priority 3.
Say I play P3, and then I call P2.
This is a voiceover of
2 won't
priority
interrupt 3, but it'll be queued up.
P2. This is a voiceover of priority 2.
Let's play P4, interrupted with 5.
This is a P5. This is a voiceover.
But since P4 has queue and interrupt,
P4.
it's been interrupted, so it queues up and it plays again after. So that is the basic function of the VPS. But there are more things available to you. Notably, this return value. This is a VO playback handle, and this gives you a lot of control over the VO that you've called for. First of all, you can see, if this current VO is playing, if it's queued, if it's finished. You can get the time remaining, the total duration, the spatialization mode, the playback state. You have a lot of information, but the most powerful thing is that you have delegates. So you can run logic when VO starts playing, for example. So let's do that. And we're gonna so when this VO starts, we are going to print debug string. I know how to Unreal. Concatenate append. It's append. Get display name. And started playback. And then we can do something similar for on finish. Now, obviously, you wouldn't necessarily be using this to print things, but you could run custom logic when a VO has started or has finished playing. Okay, so now that these two are set up, when I call P1, V1 has started playback, and V1 has finished playback. That's how the handles work. And yeah, now obviously the subsystem itself also has a couple of other methods. But all of them are described thoroughly in the documentation. But you can clear the queue, you can get the current playtime of the player. So the handles are VO specific, so it's the playtime of this one in specific. You can get the one that's currently playing. Obviously, playtime that's currently playing, the total duration. You can check if a data table is loaded. You can load a data table, you can unload a data table, and then all the play methods. And so yeah, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send us a message to ask. If you have any recommendations for new features that we can add, don't hesitate to send a message our way. And yeah, so that's the VoiceOver Priority System or VO Manager.